Yes, welcome back. I have to finish the video. This camcorder. My apartment is very hot again. Now it's more than 30, like 31. But I'm used to that. Let's read it finish. But I need to wash my hands and drink a bit cola. So just have to continue tomorrow. Let's get something to drink. No, maybe we should read one more. I don't know. I like to use my other camcorders to read on Wikipedia. No, I like to use this one. This camcorder, because you can read the text on the screen. This camcorder is not so good. This small pocket one. But this other one takes 24 hours to charging. I was reading about fighter jets. This one for my camcorder. But now I can read like this. Like I'm watching Netflix. No, I have to go to my bed because I cannot pull my table because the camcorder will fall on the floor. Like I do this. But maybe should read that. We should read one more like this, because if not, I never get finished. Resume.
259. Crasher during takeoff at Floyd Bennett Field, killing 4 of the 6 crew on board. The aircraft had just completed an inspection in which the control columns were removed and inspected for fatigue cracks. Although not proof.
Yes, let's read from the top again.
AFSA. Number 51 to 7228, New England Air Museum, Windsor Locks, Connecticut. 61. USCG 7236, National Museum of Naval Aviation, NAS Pensacola, Florida. 62. AFSA. Number 51 to 7245, then USCG 7245, Pacific Coast Air Museum, Santa Rosa, California. 63, originally served in USAF, transferred to USCG circa 1957 to 58. AFSA. number 51 to 7247, then USCG 7247, Coast Guard Air Station Elizabeth City, North Carolina. 64. AFSA. Number 51 to 7250, the USCG 7250, Coast Guard Air Station Cape Cod, Massachusetts. 65. AFSA. Number 51 to 7251, Dice Linear Air Park, Dice AFB, Texas. 66. AFSA. Number 51 to 7254, Jimmy Doolittle Air and Space Museum, Travis AFB, Fairfield, California. 67. AFSA. Number 52 to 1280, Kirtland AFB, Albuquerque, New Mexico. 68. USCG 1293, Marchfield Air Museum, March ARB, Riverside, California. 69. USCG 2129, Battleship Memorial Park, Mobile, Alabama. 70. Accidents and incidents. On the 24th of January, 1952, SAS-16 Albatross, 51-001, C/NG-74, 71, of the 480th Air Resupply Squadron, described as a Central Intelligence Agency air unit, on cross-country flight from Mountain Home AFB, Idaho, to San Diego, California, suffered failure of the port engine over Death Valley. The crew of 6 successfully bailed out around 1830 with no injuries, and walked south some 14 miles, 23 kilometers, to Furnace Creek, California, where they were picked up the following day by an SAS-16 from the 42nd Air Rescue Squadron, March AFB, California. The abandoned SAS-16 crashed into Town Summit mountain ridge of the Panamint Range west of Stovepipe Wells with the starboard engines still running. The wreckage is still there. 72, 73. On the 16th of May, 1952, a U.S. Navy Grumman Albatross attached to the Iceland Defense Force crashed on Eyjafjallajökull in Iceland. Due to bad weather conditions, rescuers did not make it to the crash site until 2.5 days later. One crew member was found dead in the wreckage, but the other 4 were not found despite extensive search. Evidence on scene suggested that they had tried to deploy the emergency radio, but most likely failed due to very poor weather conditions, and then tried to walk down the glacier. 74. In 1964, partial remains of one of the crew member along with an engraved wedding ring were found at the rim of the glacier. 75. On the 20th of August, 1966, the remains of the 3 remaining crew members were found at a similar location. 76, 77. On the 18th of May, 1957, U.S. Coast Guard HU-16 Albatross, Coast Guard 1278, stalled and crashed during a JATO demonstration during the Armed Forces Day display at Coast Guard Air Station Salem. The pilot and another crewman were killed. The stall was caused by pilot error. 78. On the 22nd of August, 1957, U.S. Coast Guard HU-16 Albatross, Coast Guard 1259, crashed during takeoff at Floyd Bennett Field, killing 4 of the 6 crew on board. The aircraft had just completed an inspection in which the control columns were removed and inspected for fatigue cracks. Although not proven, it is believed that poor maintenance during the reinstallation of the control columns led to the crash. 79. On the 3rd of July, 1964, U.S. Coast Guard HU-16 Albatross, Coast Guard 7233, was lost along with all 5 crew members as it returned from a search for a missing fishing boat. 2 days later, The wreckage was found on a mountainside, 3 miles, 4.8 kilometers, from its base at Air Station Annette, Alaska. 80. On the 18th of June, 1965, on the first Operation Arclight mission flown by B-52 Stratofortresses of Strategic Air Command to hit a target in South Vietnam, 2 aircraft collided in the darkness. 8 crew were killed, but 4 survivors were located and picked up by an HU-16 AGR Albatross amphibian, AF serial number 51 to 5287. The Albatross was damaged on takeoff via heavy sea state, and those on board had to transfer to a Norwegian freighter and a Navy vessel, the aircraft sinking thereafter. 81. On the 9th of January, 1966, a Republic of China HU-16 carrying 3 mainland Chinese naval defectors was shot down by communist MiGs over the Straits of Formosa, just hours after they had surrendered their landing ship and asked for asylum. The Albatross was attacked just 15 minutes after departing the island of Matsu on a 135 miles, 217 kilometers, flight to Taipei. According to a U.S. Defense Department announcement, the attack was a swift and perhaps intentional retribution for the communist sailors who killed 7 fellow crew members during their pre-dawn escape to freedom. 82. On the 23rd of April, 1966, a Royal Canadian Air Force Grumman CSR-110 Albatross, 9302, serving with number 121 Composite Unit, CU, at Acuff Station Comox, BC crashed on the Hope Slidolier Hope, BC. It was the only Acuff Albatross loss. 5 of the 6 crew members died, Squadron Leader J. Braden, Flying Officer Christopher J. Cormier, Leading Aircraftsman Robert L. McNaughton, Flight Lieutenant Philip L. Montgomery, and Flight Lieutenant Peter Semak. Flying Officer Bob Reed was the sole survivor. A portion of the wreckage is still visible and can be hiked to. On the 5th of March, 1967, U.S. Coast Guard HU-16E Albatross, Coast Guard 1240, C/NG-61, out of Coast Guard Air Station St. Petersburg, Florida, deployed to drop a deutering pump to a sinking 40-foot, 12M, yacht, Flying Fish, in the Gulf of Mexico off of Carabel, Florida. Shortly after making a low pass behind the sinking vessel to drop the pump, the flying boat crashed a short distance away, with loss of all 6 crew. The vessel's crew heard a loud crash, but could see nothing owing to fog. The submerged wreck was not identified until 2006. 83, 84. On the 15th of June, 1967, U.S. Coast Guard HU-16E Albatross, Coast Guard 7237, was based at Coast Guard Air Station Annette Island, in Alaska. The crew was searching near Slocum Lake, British Columbia, Canada, for a missing light plane. The pilot began following the river up to Slocum Lake, intending to turn around at the lake and fly back out of the valley. The co-pilot cowed for a right turn, but for some reason, the plane went left. According to reports, the co-pilot shouted, "Come right! Come right!" The plane hit the mountain, and burst into flames. The 3 observers in the back were able to get clear of the wreckage, and reported seeing an intense fire engulf the front half of the aircraft. Pilot Lieutenant Robert Brown, co-pilot Lieutenant David Bain, and radio operator at 2 Robert Striff, Jr., however, were killed. The wreckage can still be seen on the side of the mountain in Atlin Provincial Park. 85. On the 7th of August, 1967, U.S. Coast Guard HU-16E Albatross, Coast Guard 2128, C/NG 355, ex-USAF SA-16 52 to 128, out of San Francisco, returning from a search mission for an overdue private cabin cruiser Misty, which had run out of fuel, in the Pacific Ocean off of San Luis Obispo, struck a slope of Mount Mars near the Monterey-San Luis Obispo County line about 0.5 miles, 0.80 kilometer, east of Highway 1. The airframe broke in two, killing 2 crew immediately and injuring 4 others, with one dying in the hospital several days later. 86. On the 21st of September, 1973, U.S. Coast Guard HU-16 Albatross, Coast Guard 2123, was lost over the Gulf of Mexico. The crew was dropping flares over a search area when one flare ignited inside the aircraft, incapacitating the pilots, which led the aircraft to enter an uncontrollable spin. All 7 on board were